Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Very happy Independence Day to everyone present here, and a very warm welcome for yet another session of Weekend with Wisdom. Today we have a very special guest, Dr. Karanam Aravinda Rao, who is a retired Director General of Police Andhra Pradesh and who has studied Sanskrit under Mahamahopadhyaya Padma Shri Dr. Shri Pulela Shri Ramachandrudu, and has also studied Vedanta under Mahamahopadhyaya Swami Tattvavidananda Saraswati ji. Aravinda Rao ji has authored many books on Hindu philosophy, many practical manuals to help children to understand Hindu philosophy, and he has delivered hundreds of thousands of talks on Ramayana, on various texts of Vedanta and general texts of Hindu philosophy. A very warm welcome, sir. Thank you for participating on this session with us today. Dr. Aravinda Rao will be speaking today on Ramayana, on how Maharshi Valmiki has conceptualized, has portrayed Bhagavan Sri Ram and his life and his teachings in the context of recently conducted Ayodhya Bhumi Pujan. This topic has been chosen for today's Weekend with Wisdom because finally we are at a stage when we will be having a mandir at Devalaya at the place, and we will be able to worship Lord Rama. So we need to know who Bhagavan Rama is, what it means to what are his teachings, what it means to learn from his life. So I am very thankful to Shri Aravinda Rao ji for agreeing to do this session. With this short introduction, I open the floor to Dr. Aravinda Rao ji. Please start your session, sir.
Om Shuklam Varadharam Vishnum Sasivarnam Chaturbhujam Prasannavadanam Dhyayet Sarva Vignopashantaye Ramaya Ramabhadraya Ramachandraya Vedase Raghunathaya Nathaya Sitaya Pataye Namaha. Om. Thank you, Sri Nitin Sridhar, for the good introduction, and a happy Independence Day to all the participants. I am very happy to be here today to speak about Valmiki Ramayana. The title, of course, the title or the caption, that the Weekend with Wisdom, that is it looks rather heavy for me, but still anyway, it has been going on for quite some time, so I had to accept that particular caption. Then, as Mr. Nitin Sridhar said, we are now speaking about Ramayana at the backdrop of the Bhumi Puja, which went ahead recently. And now we are hopeful of getting a magnificent temple there. And when we talk about temples, I am reminded of what one of my Vedanta teachers was saying. One teacher called Hari Sambashiva Shastri, he used to say that the first temple for a deity is the mantra of the deity. According to Vedic tradition, as per the Vedic tradition, the mantra is supposed to be the first, it is supposed to be the temple, because that mantra contains the essence or whatever are the characteristics, whatever we want to describe about that particular deity, the mantra contains it. So mantra, over a period of time, somebody made it into a sort of yantra, what we call spiritual geography or whatever it is. And then these yantras, in our tradition, we find innumerable yantras. And from that yantra, a small replica, a small type of some small symbolic thing, some symbolic thing to be kept there. And that replica in course of time became into an idol. And all the features of the deity, they got transformed, they got translated into that particular idol. For example, Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha, they are represented as the four bhujas. They are the four bhujas of Lord Vishnu. Or the four Vedas, represented as the four heads of Brahma. So something like that. So like that, it started with the mantra. And if we talk about Rama's temple, we do not know who first built Rama's temple. Of course, according to tradition, we are told that Lord Kushava, Rama's son himself built that temple. We do not know, but we can, for all practice, as students of Vedanta, also we can take it that Ramayana is the first temple, and that temple which has been built by Valmiki. Ramayana I consider to be the big temple, and that is because we were aware of Valmiki Ramayana much before we were aware of anything about Ayodhya or anything about what happened in Ayodhya, etc. In our childhood, even in my childhood, at the age of 5 or 6, my maternal grandfather used to teach this, what is this Bala Ramayanam, and then say, okay, come here, tapasvadhyayanatam tapasvi vidamvaram. So we learned all those things by heart at the time. And we generally knew the story of Ramayana. So by like that, Ramayana was already in our hearts. Rama was already in our hearts. And similarly, this was helped by thousands and thousands of writers, singers, writers like Tulasidas or Kamba Ramayanam in all languages. In Telugu also, in Telugu also, we don't have such very famous. We do have Ramayanas, but they are not as famous as Tulasi Ramayana. But in all languages, there are Ramayanas. There are so many singers like Tyagaraja and very many other dramatists, Bhavabhuti and people, dramatists like Bhavabhuti. And even now, the tradition is continuing. The tradition is continuing. Even some child singer, like some Surya Gayatri, is one girl who is inspiring so many young girls. And on seeing Surya Gayatri, we are finding many young girls demanding some silk clothes, and then they are also imitating all the mannerisms of Surya Gayatri. They are also waving their hands in the same manner, and then they are reciting shlokas. So that girl, by singing that song, what is that? Sri Ramachandra Krupalu Bhajamana. By singing that song, she has built temples in the minds of lakhs and lakhs of young girls. So like that, Tyagaraja has built hearts in the minds of millions of people. M.S. Subbalakshmi, singers like that. So many singers, dancers, and all forms of art we find. So we find so many temples in the hearts of people. So I think that these temples which are there in our hearts, they have to be preserved first. If these things are preserved, Ayodhya temple will be preserved. If these things are not preserved by us, then the temple at Ayodhya, its future may hang in balance. It all depends on the political structure. It all depends on the what we call demography. So it may all depend on that. So, but the temple in our hearts, that has to be preserved. So that is what I feel. And a physical temple was destroyed by, by the invaders. And right now, people also have learned that there are also temples in the minds of people. So that is the reason why our intellectual Babars, we can call them intellectual Babars, they want to destroy the temples in our hearts by portraying all types of distorted versions of Ramayana, distorted interpretations of Ramayana. And in fact, I happened to give talks on Ramayana only after reading about what is happening in the field of this Indological studies. When I read that book, The Battle for Sanskrit, then only, then I realized that, okay, the battle for Sanskrit is a very serious thing. Only then I got the idea of teaching Valmiki Ramayana. So the Valmiki Ramayana, in fact, I had already read a couple of times, and also with all the commentaries which are now available even on the cell phone. Even on the cell phone, you have got all the commentaries, at least 3 or 4 commentaries which are uploaded by IITK. So all these things, with the help of all these things, I could teach Valmiki Ramayana. More than about 250 talks you find in that Advaita Academy website. So of course, I did not mention to any of these Western writers in all my talks. I just explained the text with the help of commentaries, traditional commentaries, like there is a wonderful commentary called Govinda Raja is a great commentator. He has written a commentary called Bhushana. And again, there is another commentary called Dharma-1. Dharma-1 is by one gentleman called Triambaka Makhi. So there, so many things. Triambaka Makhi is somewhat like an encyclopedia on Dharma, the entire literature on Dharma. So I happened to read all those things, and then that is how I gave some talks. So today and tomorrow, I just want to divide the talks in this manner. I'm just planning. That is Dharma and statecraft. Statecraft as illustrated in Ramayana. That is today. Today, I just want to talk about Dharma and how these two things are not two discordant entities. When we talk about Dharma and statecraft, it looks as though Dharma is something which is so totally radically different from statecraft, because that is the idea which we have in our minds. When statecraft means by all means, all means, fair, foul, by all means, you have to win over the. Uh, so these things are some popping up, some chart popping up. Okay, anyway, I will not look at those chats. So when we hear this about, when we hear the word this what is this statecraft, there are certain negative associations also, negative connotations also associated with that word, because we use all the means, all the instruments of the state in order to ensure the national interest or integrity of the state, ensure good relations with neighbors, etc., etc. So that is what we have. And the texts we have are Kautilya's Arthashastra. We also have Kamandaka Niti Shastra. Kamandaka Niti Shastra is more famous with all the commentators because Kautilya's Arthashastra was not available for a long time. And Kautilya's Arthashastra was discovered only in the year 1900, it seems, in Kerala, somewhere, some Shama Shastri or some scholar. Then, but the Kamandaka Niti Shastra is quite often quoted in all the commentaries. So, like that Kamandaka Niti Shastra, if you go to Western literature, you find that Machiavelli's Prince, and Machiavelli's Prince also uses all types of means. So, even Kamandaka Niti Shastra also tells all these things. And Kamandaka Niti Shastra, of course, does not go beyond a point. But Machiavelli's Prince, of course, it goes beyond. It is totally immoral in their approach. So anyway, now when we talk about Ramayana, in Ramayana we find that there is no discord between Dharma and what is called Purushartha, that is Rajya, the statecraft. Statecraft also is a Purushartha. When we say Dharma, Artha, Kama, these are the three Varga as we call it, Dharma, Artha and Kama. So when we talk about three Varga, then the Kama in this particular case, Dharma and Artha in this particular case is the stability of the state, or Rama has to become the king, he has to be the emperor. That is his personal, from his point of view, if we see, that is Artha for him. So, but that Artha has to be attained through the process of Dharma only. Dharma, Arthasya, Kamasya, that is the motto both in Mahabharata and also in Ramayana. We find the description of Rama in the first two chapters of Ayodhya Kanda, and the wonderful description of the characters of Rama, about how Dharma, Artha and Kama are so well balanced in him. So Dharma, Arthasya, Kamasya becomes the motto in all our texts. So that is what we find here. That is what I just want to show by picking up some cases. Some episodes, some major episodes, that is, for example, where exactly the first crisis of Dharma takes place when Rama goes to forest. Then again, second, when he meets Guha, what is his relation with Guha? Then another incident where Bharata and Rama, they discuss. So the discussion between Bharata and Rama. Then again, the friendship with Sugriva. Then again, killing of Vali, that is another important episode in Ramayana. Then there is a very little known episode in Valmiki Ramayana. That is, Angada starts a dissident camp on their way to Lanka. Angada starts a dissident camp, and how that dissident camp was handled by Hanuman. Again, a very Kishkindha Kanda appears to be rather very simple, but then Kishkindha Kanda, there is so much of politics. I was so surprised to study that Kishkindha Kanda. Then handling up the dissident camp, and again Hanuman, as we see in Sundara Kanda, and Rama himself in battle, and again Sita's Agni Pravesha. So these are the things which I want to take and then illustrate. I do not know whether I can cover all the incidents, but I'll try to cover briefly. So these are these episodes I will just take, and I want to cover the how, tell how or explain how dharma and statecraft, they are integrated in the case of Ramayana. Then we see the first major ethical crisis, we can say, or clash of dharma, clash between Vyakti dharma and Raja dharma. It first comes out in the Ayodhya Kanda when Rama goes to forest. There is a clash between Vyakti dharma and Raja dharma in the case of Dasharatha. Because Dasharatha, we know that he had promised to Kaikeyi. Kaikeyi was married by him, and she was called Rajya Shulka. Rajya Shulka means by offering kingdom to her progeny, he married her. So as a Rajya Shulka, in those days we know that there is what is called Virya Shulka. Virya Shulka means you have to prove your valor and then get the girl. And then similarly Rajya Shulka, you are offering your kingdom and then you are getting the girl. Or similarly, some other type of shulka, you have to give a lot of money and take the girl. So something like that. So she was Rajya Shulka. So that promise is there at the back of the mind of Dasharatha. So Dasharatha, in fact, this particular, Dasharatha's dilemma here is, as per the royal dharma, as per the Raja dharma, he has to install Rama as the prince regent, that is Yuvaraja, because he happens to be the eldest son, and so he has to be the prince regent, that is the Yuvaraja. But then he has also made a promise to Bharata, that Kaikeyi, that her son would be the king. So what to do? So in the absence of Bharata, he gets an idea. Okay, why not we do it? So he sees some bad omens right at the time. He sees some bad omens and he says, okay, I see bad omens all around me. I may not live long. So I have to immediately install Rama as the Yuvaraja. And he says, he calls the assembly. And when he calls the assembly also, if you see, it is not as though the king was absolutely powerful in those days. The king, there were so many Rajakartaraha. We get this word Rajakartaraha in the Ayodhya Kanda. Rajakartaraha means the people who were in a way approving or electing a king. Though the law of primogeniture is, the principle of primogeniture was very much there, but still all these suzerains, all these people, something like councillors, all those people had a stake in that. And not only that, we read in that second chapter and third chapter that Dasharatha invites all the tribal chiefs also. Vana Shailanta Vasinaha. Vana Shailanta Vasinaha means Vana Shaila. Vana is forest and Shaila is hills. All the hill dwellers and also forest dwellers, etc. All the leaders of those people, not all the people, the leaders of all the chiefs of those people, they were all invited. So that is what we see here. So then all the people, of course, they hail Dasharatha's decision and then they say very nice decision and all that. And then Dasharatha calls Rama and he tells, Viproshitascha Bharato. This is the second chapter, that is fourth chapter in Ayodhya Kanda. Viproshitascha Bharato Yavadeva Purad Itaha Tavadeva Abhishekaste Prapta Kalo Mato Mama. So the Bharata is away. But then I feel that you have to be installed as Yuvaraja. Bharata is away, and even before he comes, you can be installed. So this can be interpreted in two ways. I am seeing some bad omens, and then I have to install you. Bharata may not be there, his presence is not required. So we have to go ahead with this function. Or it will mean, okay, Bharata is away and then there is no problem, we have to do this. So this is second interpretation is rather an uncharitable interpretation for Dasharatha. But then probably the promise made by him to Kaikeyi, probably it was there at the back of his mind. It looks like that. So he says, Viproshitascha Bharata. Bharata is not there, but then it is the time for you to get installed. So that is what he says. And that is how all the arrangements go on. And of course, Dasharatha also knows that Bharata is a very, very loyal brother. Dasharatha says, okay, Bharata is as strong as Rama in his devotion to Dharma. That is what he says. So here, the problem here is, he has to keep up his word. So there is a big debate between Kaikeyi and Dasharatha. Kaikeyi says, you have to keep your word. Then Dasharatha says, no, this is Raja Dharma. Then there is a debate about what is dharma and what is satyam, whether satyam is predominant or dharma is predominant. Then the Kaikeyi says satye dharma pratisthitah. In that sense, of course, this word comes later. Unless there is truth, unless there is truthfulness, where is your dharma? So dharma, satyam is the very essence of truthfulness. Dharme satyam pratishthitam is another way of saying. So these expressions we find in Ramayana. So this debate about the satyam and dharma, Dasharatha wants to somehow tell her that, okay, I have to install Rama. But then she says, no, you have to stick to your word. You have to, you have to keep up your word. So that dilemma is there. And Dasharatha cannot solve that problem. It can be solved by either Kaikeyi or by Rama. Kaikeyi can solve the problem by withdrawing her whatever boons she had asked, but she is not in a mood to withdraw. Rama, he now solves the problem by volunteering to go to the forest. Rama could have, according to Raja Dharma, Rama could have said, no, I'm okay, I will stay on, I will be the king. But then Rama did not say. So he wants to, because Dasharatha, if he defaults on his promise, what happens to him? So he will accrue sin. Sin will accrue to him, and then he will go to hell. That is also one argument. Because if Dasharatha basically he cannot solve the problem without defaulting on one of the two options. That is Rama, but then Rama has the option. Rama has the option to go to the forest. So that is what he does. So that he is, number one, he is obeying his father's word, and he is also saving his father from going to hell, from damnation. He is also saving his father from damnation. That is in the sense that he is enabling his father to keep his word. So he takes the decision. He solves the problem. So that is what one thing we say. That is what we see there. And then there is an episode where Lakshmana very strongly rebels. He goes to the extent of suggesting that, okay, if necessary, I will kill Bharata. I will arrest, I will detain my father Dasharatha if he comes. So he goes to that extent. But then Rama says, no, don't follow the Kshatriya Dharma. And Dharma Ashraya Ma Taikshniyam Mama Buddhir Anugamyatam. He says, Ma Taikshniyam. Kshatriya Dharma is okay. Kshatriya Dharma does not mean that Taikshniyam, that harshness or rashness. So Dharma Ashraya Ma Taikshniyam. So you follow Dharma. So that is what he says. So Raja Dharma, Kshatriya Dharma, and also Vyakti Dharma, all these things have to be integrated there. They have to be harmonized. So this is one thing which we see at the time of Rama going to the forest. Then when we come to this episode where Rama and Guha meet, I think I'll refer to Guha tomorrow also, because tomorrow I want to discuss the poetic beauty in Ramayana, and also the ethical training given to Ramayana and some other ethical aspects which we find in Ramayana. And also the sociological significance of certain minor characters. Sociological significance of certain minor characteristics. These 3 points I want to discuss tomorrow. Today it is only about statecraft, because statecraft is not very overtly stated by Valmiki. But then we see that Valmiki is a very great scriptwriter. Not even scriptwriter, a screenplay writer. We know what is screenplay writing. Screenplay writing, every movement of the actor is described. So here again in Ramayana, we find that every movement of the actors, they are described. The body language, Valmiki is an expert in describing the body language. So if we miss the body language, we may miss the meaning also. We may miss the equation, the interpersonal relations, all those things we may miss. So that is, when we come to Guha, I will refer to him tomorrow also. So this Guha is somebody who is a tribal leader. And when on his way to forest, Rama has to go to a particular village called Srungiberapuram. So Srungiberapuram, for that village, maybe some neighboring places, he is the chief, that Guha is the chief. So when he goes, Guha is introduced as Ramasya Atma Samassakha. Not Atma Samaha, Ramasya Atma Samassakha, not Atma Priyaha, Atma Samassakha. So it is so dear to him. It is so dear to him like his own self. So he knows that there is a good friend, but then he doesn't inform him. So by the time they go to that place, it was night, And then Rama chooses to camp under a tree. Rama, Sita, and Lakshmana, they do camp under a tree. Guha comes to know that Rama has come, and then he comes immediately along with his friends, elders, etc. And then he says, "Okay, this kingdom is yours. You be here, etc., etc." But Rama doesn't go to him. Rama says, "No, no, as a Kshatriya, I cannot go. Moreover, as per my the word to my father, I cannot dwell in a habitation. I have to stay in the forest only. I can only stay here. I can only stay outside habitation." So he stays under that tree on that night. So then the body language, if we see, as soon as Guha comes, Rama simply just gets up and then just takes a few steps forward. But it is Guha who comes and hugs him. So what does it mean? So at that time, the tribal chief is also having that liberty to hug a prince. Of course, the commentators have written a lot about it. Was it appropriate behavior for him, for Guha, etc., etc.? I will not go into that. So Guha comes and hugs him. Then thereafter, and also offers, "Oh, this kingdom is yours. You be here, etc., etc." Then Rama says, "No, I cannot stay here. I have to go away. So just give some fodder to our horses. Our horses are tired, but we will stay here." So he just takes some water from the river, and then they sleep there only. Lakshmana prepares a small bed of leaves, and then they do sleep there. And then when they sleep again, you have to see what happens. Guha says, "I will guard you, you please." Lakshmana, he tells Lakshmana, "You also go to sleep." Lakshmana says, "No, no, no, I will not go to sleep." When Rama and Sita are just lying down on the harsh ground, how can I sleep? I will also keep awake. I will chat with you. So he keeps on chatting with Guha. So here we see that Lakshmana is being very friendly with Guha, but at the same time he is also cautious. He is also very cautious, and then he is the personal guard to Rama and Sita, and not Guha. So there is friendship, but at the same time caution. Friendship with caution we see there between in the case of Lakshmana. So that is what we see in Lakshmana's character there. And again on the next day, next morning, they just cross over and then go. This Guha we again meet when Bharata comes. When Bharata comes on his way to meet Rama, then what happens? Then again they have to go through this village only. At that time, this Guha, he suspects Bharata's motives. And then he says, "No, what is your intention, etc." He mildly interrogates also. So Bharata, he says, "No, I have to go. I am requesting him to come back, etc., etc." But then this Guha had already kept 500 boats filled with men, filled with archers. In case Bharata wants to cross the river, Bharata will not cross the river. So that is what he says. Bharata will not cross the river if he has got any bad intention. So this is what we see. What we see that okay, tribals were not part of the Indian mainstream, etc., is a total nonsense. If we see Ramayana and also Mahabharata for so many years, Dharma-Raja and they lived in the jungle. So here again for 14 years, Rama lived in the jungle, and this jungle life and the people in the forests, they were part and parcel of the mainstream. So and also this Guha and his people, and this so-called tribal people, they were one important contingent in the king's army. For example, if the emperor had some army, there were 6 contingents. I will not go into the details. There were 6 contingents. I will tell you tomorrow anyway. This tribal contingent was an important contingent in those days. So when our people say, no, tribals are all people who are totally different, etc., that is something which is absolutely wrong. So anyway, that Guha is one man who again tests Bharata. So which means that the forest people, they also had some stake in the kingdom. They also had some power in deciding or influencing. They also were a factor, an important factor in the kingdom. Then again, we come to the example of, the third example I want to take is, that is Bharata and Rama. Bharata and Rama, when Bharata comes to meet Rama, again, as I said, Bharata is in a very, very unenviable position because everybody suspects him. Because the moment Bharata reaches Ayodhya from his mother-in-law's place, Kausalya tells, "Oh, now you have got the kingdom. At least send me to Rama. I don't want to be here. Send me to Rama." Then that man falls on her feet and then says, no, I don't have any, Amma, I don't have any greed. I am not here. I am Rama's servant, etc., etc., he says. And then again, he, after completing all the funeral ceremonies and all that, when the funeral ceremonies are completed, then Vasishtha, of all the people, Vasishtha also says, no, no, you take up the kingdom. Vasishtha, why does Vasishtha say that? And of course, Bharata is angry with Vasishtha also. How can you tell me adharma? Vasishtha says, this is not adharma. This is what your father also wanted. This is what I am supposed to do, and this is what Rama also had done. So, but then Bharata says, no, I cannot take up the kingdom. And then he insists on going. So then the next step, Guha also suspects him. Then again on the next step, there is another sage called Bharadwaja. And that Bharadwaja, Rama on his way to forest, he also camped in Bharadwaja's ashrama. So this man, this Bharata also goes with his, he goes of course with a small, he goes with an army and then he goes to that place, Bharadwaja's camp. And that Bharadwaja also has some suspicion in his mind. So he creates a magnificent ambience. Bharadwaja was a very, very great Rishi. So with all his, say, powers of austerity, he creates a great ambience, and then he serves very, very lavish food to all the people, and he creates a huge mansion, just a huge mansion, by his tapashakti, and in that mansion there is also a royal throne, and then all the people are asked to go and camp there. So the people, they go and camp there, but then the test is whether Bharata would go and sit on that throne. So Bharata does not go and sit on that throne. Bharata thinks that that is a royal throne. I am not going to sit there. He humbly sits on some other seats. So this everywhere, at every step, Valmiki's description of this body language is so important. Then again, Bharata, after all that dinner was over, that the huge dinner, why was it created? If we see, the Rishi also wanted to test. Rishi wanted to test as to whether there is any sort of some lingering doubt, some sort of lurking desire, not lingering doubt, some sort of lingering desire, some lurking desire in the mind of Bharata for kingdom. So that is what we see there. And Bharata, Bharadwaja was convinced that Bharata did not have any such ambition. And only then he tells, okay, Rama went in this direction, you also go in this direction. So then when Bharata goes to that place, when Bharata meets Rama, then again the discussion between Bharata and Rama is so impressive. There's a few chapters are there, Bharata's commitment to Dharma and how that discussion between Bharata and Rama. So he advances, so he makes so many arguments. And before that, there is a particular sarga called Kachit Sarga. Many people many of us probably now we are familiar with this Kachit Sarga. That is, when Bharata reaches that place, of course, the initial reaction of Lakshmana was that Bharata is coming with a mighty army to kill us. So Rama says, no, Bharata is not coming. Bharata probably is sent by our father to bring us, to take us back. So that is what he says. Then again, Bharata and Shatrughna, they come and fall on the feet, and then Lakshmana also realizes that he made a mistake. Then again, at that time, Rama poses various questions. He poses various questions about, are you doing this, are you doing that? Because already it was a month. Because by the time Bharata comes to the place, it was already a month. Because it took some time for him after Dasharatha's death. It took some time for him to get the news from a far off, in a far off place. And then again, it took some time for him to come. Then again, some funeral ceremonies. And then again, starting from that place and then coming. So all these things, it was about a month time. So then Rama asks, are you doing this as a king? Are you doing this as a king? Kachit is only a question form, we know. So in that sarga, he puts so many questions. So it looks on the face of it, because people sometimes who want to talk about statecraft, they only concentrate on this Kachit sarga. That is Kachit sarga, okay, king has to do this, king has to win friends like this, king has to use Sama, Dana, Veda, etc. in this manner, etc. So it looks like as though a sort of interpolation by some enthusiastic epic, by the enthusiastic epic writer who wanted to give a lot of information to the audience or to the reader. But then if you see, Rama is also indicating, Ramayana is a great work of art. There is nothing which is unnecessary in that. So Rama is also indicating by putting so many questions that I am not interested in kingdom. I am not interested in the kingdom. And then Rama is also observing. Rama is also observing Bharata, whether Bharata is also having any lurking desire, because Rama is also one person who does not take anybody for granted. Even while coming to forest, we see that he says he refuses to take Sita initially. And when Sita uses some harsh words, Striyam Purusha Vigraham, etc., then only he realizes that she is very, very intent, very particular. Then he says, yes, you have taken an appropriate decision. Then why did you not allow me in advance? Then he says, I was not sure about your say firmness. So like that, Rama does not take anybody for granted. Even when meeting Guha also, even when the meeting with Guha, he doesn't take him for granted. Guha comes and hugs him only after some discussion, then only Rama hugs him. So that is what we see there. And Rama doesn't want to stay there also. Rama doesn't want to stay because he should not, he says, I should not give him, allow Kaikeyi to entertain any doubts about my motives. If I stay here, people will keep coming to me. In fact, even from Chitrakuta, where he stays first, he first camps in Chitrakuta. There, because Bharata comes with his army, and then there is a long discussion with Bharata. But then people used to go there. So it may become another power center. Rama doesn't want to give any such impression. That is what is the Maryada Purushottam. When we talk about Maryada Purushottam, so that Maryada is that boundary. So he just doesn't cross the boundary. So he just doesn't want to stay there, and then he wants to go deep into the jungle. So the unknown to people. So that is what Rama does. So here when Bharata comes to meet Rama, there is a big discussion. So Bharata is insistent. Bharata almost does, why almost? He does some satyagraha. Bharata uses all arguments. He says, okay, you are the eldest son and you are the most valorous and competent person. And then if the father makes some mistake, it is for the son to rectify such mistake. So like that, there are so many arguments which Bharata gives. But then Rama also tells him, explains him how the father's word has to be made true. Otherwise, the father, he will get sin. He will get sin, and then he will go to hell if he is not able to keep up his word. So that is what he convinces. And then she says, and he also says, do not be angry with Kaikeyi because she is totally in the limits of Dharma, within the limits of Dharma. So then Bharata has no option. Then he does some sort of satyagraha. And in fact, this satyagraha is sort of, he just lies down there, and then I will not move from here. I will just do prayopavesha. I will die here. I will not have food. So then, of course, the commentators, Dharma, Kuta and others, they point out that this is an option. Of course, in the Ramayana also they tell, this is not an option for Kshatriya. This is the option only for a Brahmana. Only a Brahmana can do satyagraha, because Brahmin is not supposed to use force against anybody. Suppose some injustice has been done to a Brahmin by somebody. So this Brahmin is not supposed to use force. He is only supposed to do satyagraha. He has to just sit in front of his house and then stop having food. So that is what this Rama and others they say. And then he was asked to stop that satyagraha. Probably the satyagraha, this idea of non-violent resistance, it is not new. It is not new to us. It is there in our own books. Then if we see that this debate between Bharata and Rama, it is so impressive that it is something which is unique. Probably we don't find it in any other literature. It looks like that because the Bharata, for the sake of kingdom, there is fratricide and then all types of killing of people. But here, it is a totally dharmic way. The predominance of dharma and predominance of sattva guna is what we see. In fact, if we see the transfer of power in Ayodhya, transfer of power in Kishkinda, and transfer of power in Lanka, there are three instances of devolution of power. One is in Ayodhya, one is in Kishkinda, and the other is in Lanka. So here it is totally dominated by sattva guna. Here in Ayodhya. Then when we come to Kishkinda, all our human machinations we find there. In fact, when I was reading Kishkinda Kanda, I was thinking that these Vanaras, they are very close to human beings only. And the behavior in Ramayana, in Ayodhya, it is more like God's, it is more divine. But here, it is more absolutely modern, modern in the sense, absolutely our human behavior only, all types of crookedness and machinations and whatnot. Then again, when we go to Ravana's place, it is totally dominated by Tamoguna. So these three, the dominance of Tamoguna there, it is so very clearly seen. So then we come to the next episode. Of course, this episode concludes when Vasishtha suggests, okay, Bharata had taken all the material which was needed to coronate Rama in the jungle itself. So he had taken a lot of material, including a caparisoned elephant and whatnot, caparisoned elephant, a throne, and then golden sandals, etc. So on the suggestion of Vasishtha, golden sandals were put before Rama. So you please get on to these things. Just put your feet on this and then give them back. He says, Adhiroha Arya Padabhyam Paduke Hemabhushite Yetehi Sarvalokasya Yogakshemam Vidhasyataha. So he says, okay, these your sandals, they will do the Yogakshema for the entire kingdom. So you just climb, step onto that and then leave them so that I will take them as they will be your pratinidhi. They will be your pratinidhi and they will be on the throne. So that is how Vasishtha and the sages, they solve the issue there. Then again, we come to the next episode. The next episode is the friendship. Yeah, it's 11:13. Okay. The next episode is friendship with Sugriva. So this friendship with Sugriva is again a very interesting thing. Hanuman comes. Hanuman, there's a very famous scene in which Hanuman comes, and then in the case of a bhikshu, and then he tells all that. So there he praises Rama and Lakshmana, and he presents. And after speaking to Rama, Rama doesn't speak anything. Rama asks Lakshmana to speak on behalf of him. So Lakshmana tells what is their background and all that. Then Hanuman presents a sort of win-win situation. Hanuman, we see that Hanuman is a person who uses Sama, Dana, Bheda, Danda wherever it is necessary. So he uses that Sama. Sama is, again, that definition, there is a big definition for Sama. There is a win-win situation has to be explained to the other party. So he explains, yes, he will be able to help you and you will be able to help him. In fact, Rama and Lakshmana, they were coming in search of Sugriva. And they are also extremely happy. They are extremely happy that the minister of that Sugriva is seen, and then immediately there is a friendship, etc. Then again, if you see the friendship between Sugriva, how that friendship is made, and after that friendship, of course, Agni Sakshikam, that friendship also is made in the presence of fire, and then they move around the fire, etc. That's okay. But then after that, Rama, he wants to know whether his promise, that is, he has made a promise, okay, I'll help you and get back the kingdom. So, but then he has to be sure that he is representing the right person. Like an advocate, he may know that the person he is representing is a criminal, but still he may be representing. But here it is not like that. Rama, he wants to know whether this Sugriva is on the path of Dharma or whether Vali is on the path of Dharma. So he just wants to he wants to ensure whether Sugriva is the person who is really wronged. That is the point. And if Rama thinks that Vali's mistake is only a small mistake, then in fact he says, I will even go to Vali. I'll speak to Vali and sort this out. So the Rama's options are so clear. Rama doesn't want to straight away kill Vali. He says, if the offense done by Vali is not severe, then okay, let us negotiate. So that is his option. So he realizes that Sugriva is the person who is wronged. His wife has been forcibly snatched away, and then there were so many attempts on the life of Sugriva. So many people had come several times, and that is how Rama, in a very subtle manner, he examines the case of Sugriva. And just as Rama evaluates the case of Sugriva. Sugriva also evaluates the strength of Rama. So he should know, first of all, whether this man is useful or not. He may be looking very sturdy, he may be looking handsome, etc. Whether he will deliver goods. So he tells about what Wali used to do, how he used to pluck out huge cliffs, and then he used to play with them like ping pong balls. He used to play with them, and then how he used to move from ocean to ocean very early in the morning, and then offer his morning prayers, and how he just killed one great Asura called Dundubi, and Dundubi's huge body, that huge, not body, it was a skeleton was there. So all those things he shows. And then, of course, we know that the story we need not tell. Rama tosses that Dundubi's skeleton with his toe. And thereafter he says, no, when Wali killed this Dundubi, the body was filled with flesh. Now it is only a bare skeleton, etc. Then Lakshmana asks, so what should we do? What should we do to convince you? Then, okay, if you shoot through that sal tree, the huge sal tree, if you shoot that sal tree, one single arrow has to go through that, then I will be convinced. Then only the shooting of sal through 7 sal trees, and then again it goes down onto the ground, and then it again comes back and gets lodged in the quiver. So then the body, the language of the Sugriva changes. Till then, Sugriva is feeling like the boss. Till then, it is a very curious thing to note the body language. So when initially, when Rama and when friendship is made with Rama, then what does Sugriva do? Sugriva pulls down a branch of one huge tree, and then he puts there. Till then he was just sitting on the ground, but now he feels like a king because Lakshmana came, and then Lakshmana tells him, oh, he is such a great man, he has come to seek your help. Tava Sharanamagataha. Sharanyas Sarvalokana. Though Rama is a Sharanya for Sarvaloka, so he has come to you seeking your Sharanu. Then Sugriva is elated. So he plucks out the branch, and then he sits on that and also asks Rama to sit there. So he is on an equal footing. Then he doesn't offer a seat to Lakshmana. So Hanuman notices this. Hanuman also plucks the branch, one branch of a tree, and then puts it there and then offers it to Lakshmana. And of course, Hanuman does not sit. Hanuman is standing there only. So the body language, Valmiki does not overtly say anything. But this description, if we see, what is there in Sugriva's mind, what is his status, we see. This happens on 2 occasions. On 2 occasions, he pulls down a branch, and then he puts it on the ground, then he and Rama sit there, and he doesn't offer seat to Lakshmana. So then again, at the end, when he sees that Rama shoots through 7 sal trees, then his body language totally changes. From there, he says, yes, I am your follower. He falls on his feet, and then he says, I am your follower. So that is how we see that friendship between Sugriva and Vali. And then when we come to this killing of Vali again, we see this killing of Vali and also the politics of that succession. So when that killing of Vali, etc., the story we know. But then there are so many questions put by this Vali. He says, just noted because there are so many points. You have killed me when I was engaged in fight with another person. And then he says, I have no enmity with you. I have no enmity. If you had enmity with me, then okay, I could have understood. But then I have no enmity with you. And then this land, this belongs to me. And then we don't have any sort of land dispute, because land and wealth, they are usually the cause for a dispute, and we don't have any such dispute. And then if you think that I am an animal and all that, any animal which is killed, it is killed for its skin or meat, and I am not fit to be eaten, and my skin is also not useful for you. And why did you kill? And then again, you have killed a person who is totally neutral and having no enmity with you. And then he also says, if you had asked me first, I could have brought that Ravana, I could have lifted that Ravana, and then I could have brought Sita. I could have made Ravana bring Sita back to you. So this is another point. So, but then a question sometimes people put, why did Rama not make friends with Vali? So if Rama makes friendship with Vali, then Rama will be a sort of a sort of accomplice for all the bad deeds done by Vali, for all the arrogant deeds and bad deeds done by Vali. Rama also will be an accomplice. And moreover, it does not enhance the position of Rama. Rama, as a Kshatriya, he has to go and he has to fight the enemy. He takes the help of Sugriva only to the extent of searching, because as a human being, Rama cannot do that search. In fact, in Ramayana, the greatest difference, the main difference between Rama and Krishna is Krishna, right from the beginning, he knows that he is Avatara and then he acts like an Avatara. Whereas Rama does not know that he is an Avatara. And he is not supposed to know, because that is according to this Brahma's boon. So if he knows that Brahma's boon will be negated, so he has to be a human being only, and he does not know. And that is the reason why he has to suffer. He has to suffer, and he has to suffer in such a way that he is a role model to all of us. While suffering also, he is demonstrating, he is illustrating Dharma. And that is the reason why we take Rama as a role model to, for Dharma. Ramo Vigrahavan Dharma. It is a statement from Marisha, his enemy. So here again, when this Vali puts so many questions, Rama says, no, I can't seek your help, because I have to take the help only from somebody who is a distressed person, who is wronged. I can help him and then take help from him. I can't take help from somebody who is the wrongdoer. And then again, he also says, you say that I have no jurisdiction. The whole earth, with all the mountains, the forests, etc., they belong to the kings of the solar race. And Bharata is the king right now, and I am a representative of Bharata. You see how Rama tells, I am the representative of Bharata, a representative of the king. So that is the reason why I have some jurisdiction over you. And you have deviated from Dharma. You have snatched the wife of your younger brother. And not only that, you have attempted to kill him so many times. And then again, And there is another question. For the sake of one, we should not kill all. Why should Rama invite, the question is, why should Rama ask Sugriva to invite Vali for a fight? That is because there is a statement there, for the sake of one, we should not kill all. So if Vali has done a mistake, only Vali has to be killed, and he can't antagonize the entire the force. Suppose he calls Vali for a fight. Suppose there was another option also before Rama. Another option was to challenge Vali for a fight. So that was not possible because Vali had a sort of charmed necklace around him. Hemamala, so some Hemamala was there, and then that was given by his father, Indra, not Indra, Surya. Then, suddenly I forget anyway. So it was given by his father. So anyway, that is given, that he is having a charmed necklace. So he can't feel. So as a human being, Rama has all the limitations of being a human being. So if he faces Vali and if he is there in a direct fight, so Vali, he draws enemy's strength also. So that is also mentioned, indirectly mentioned in Valmiki. It is not directly mentioned, it is indirectly mentioned. So he draws the strength. As the opponent grows weak, he becomes very stronger and stronger because of the strength of that, because of the power of that garland. So then Vali has to be killed in that manner only. And Vali, while killing Vali also, Rama should not make enmity with all other people, because he also wants all of them. He wants Angada, he wants all the people. So that is the reason why he says, okay, only you were picked up for that. So then, with all the faults of this Vali, ultimately Vali also agrees. And now, when Vali falls, then again the politics of succession, it is very, very interesting there. When Vali falls down, then Tara, the wife of Tara, comes, and we're running out of time. It looks like that. I will very quickly move on. The wife of Tara comes, and she falls on the body and then cries. Then Hanuman there, his sagacity, we see at the time. Hanuman wants to know whether Tara is interested in protesting or interested in launching any type of, where she is having any desire that Angada should be the king or any such thing. So he goes and suggests to her okay, Vali is now dead. You take charge of the entire kingdom. All the people that are your followers. Let Angada rule, and you be the king. You be the queen. You be the queen mother. So, but then she also is very politically shrewd. She says, no, 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 I don't have any ambition. When a great man like Vali has fallen, how can I? Now Sugriva is the king. She says, Sugriva is the king. Then Vali is still there. He is not fully dead. He is just lying on the ground about to die. And Vali also listens. So Tara sees the, what we call writing on the wall. And she says, no, I don't care for Angada. Nothing will happen to Angada. Rama has only, he wanted to kill Vali. He wanted to make Sugriva the king. Now Sugriva is the king. Whomever Rama helps, he is the king. So that is, she is very, very clear about such a political shrewdness is there. And she says, yes, now we will support, almost she says, we will support Sugriva. So Sugriva, from then on, he takes over, and then he also, he shows so much of, he cries out, he cries out that is, he is responsible for his brother's death and all that. And then in a very great manner, all the obsequies were performed. So that is what we see. Hanuman's activity there. Hanuman is actually floating what we call a sort of political trial balloon, we say. We call it a trial balloon. So just to know the intention of the enemy, political kite flying, we also use that word. So he employs that technique to know what exactly is the intention of the Tara, what is the intention of Angada. So because Sugriva has to find some legitimacy, he should also get the support of all the Vanaras. So that is Hanuman's mission. So that is very beautifully described there, that particular scene. Then the next scene I think we can skip the scene of dissident camp because we are now nearing 11:30. The dissident camp is very briefly telling on their way to when the batch which was going towards Lanka, that batch was headed by Angada. In fact, Angada, Hanuman and Jambavan and all the people were important people, Neela and all these people, they were the other chieftains. So it was led by Angada, and by chance they get lost. They get lost in a huge cave, and then they just lose time. They lose sense of time, and then by the time they come out, that 1 month time given by Vali is over, and then Angada thinks, okay, if I now go back on this pretext, Sugriva may kill me. Angada also has a serious doubt. On this pretext, Sugriva may kill me. So he starts a small dissident camp. So he encourages, some of his followers are also there in that group. And then he says, no, I will stay here only. You go away. I'll stay here only. Then Hanuman, he realizes, yes, there is a potential for dissidence. Because Angada's, what is there in Angada's mind, he wants to stay there only and wait for Sugriva, say, Sugriva's death or whatever it is, what will happen to Sugriva, we do not know. But then he wants to wait there and wait for a chance. So, but Hanuman doesn't want to lose Angada also. Angada is also a great warrior and a very good boy. So he convinces him. He tries to convince. When Angada is not convinced, then he uses what is called Bheda. Bheda is creating some dissidence, and also by intimidation. Bheda is created by intimidation also. That is, I am not with you. Jambavan is not with you. Then your friends also, gradually, he also threatens them, intimidates them. And then he sees that, so all those people also, they stop their support to Angada. So that I have not given the details, but there is a very good description about how Hanuman handles that particular dissident camp. Then again, we come to what is called this Sundarakanda. Sundarakanda, again, very briefly speaking, Hanuman, we know that Hanuman is somebody who knows Sama, Dana, Veda, Danda. Hanuman uses Sama when he meets Rama and Lakshmana. There he presents a sort of win-win situation. Then again, I lost this thing. I think I'm seen. Okay. This Hanuman, he uses Sama when he meets this Rama and Lakshmana. And when he uses Dhanam when he proposes to Tara. he proposes to Tara to make Angada the king. You make Angada the king, and then you be the queen mother, etc. Then again, he uses danda. Danda is threat. That is, while he uses Veda in order to break the camp of Angada. And then he uses danda while destroying that Ashokavana. Why? Because at that place, after meeting Sita and after conveying the message of Rama, then what is left? What is left is, okay, a messenger has been assigned a particular task. After achieving that particular task, if you are able to achieve something more, that is something great. So that is how he thinks. And now, what is more to be achieved? We have to know the strength of the enemy. So in order to know the strength of the enemy, I have to pick up a fight. So he says, Na sama rakshassu gunaya kalpate. Sama cannot be, is of no use in the case of Rakshasas. Na dhanam arthopachiteshu yujyate. These are so stinkingly rich and wealthy. So there is no question of Rama giving anything to them, offering anything to them, because the whole world, all the wealth of the world is with Ravana. Then na bheda sadhya baladarpita jana. So these are the people who are so arrogant about their strength, such arrogant people. So they can't be, there cannot be any division. We can't create any division. Parakramastvaiva mameha rojate. Only parakrama seems to be the only option for, that seems to me to be the only option. So how to pick up a fight? So in order to pick up a fight, he goes and breaks that vana. So initially, long ago, when I read Valmiki Ramayana, okay, Hanuman got angry and then he broke that vana. That is what I thought. But then if we read Ramayana, you see there's so much of discussion. Hanuman thinks so many points. In fact, Hanuman comes out of his he was in a state of despair when he could not find Sita easily. But from that state he comes out, and then after meeting Sita and after conveying the message, so he again thinks of all these things, and his political acumen is seen in that place. Now I think it is getting time, so I'll come to the last episode, that is Sita's Agni Pravesha. That is, which I could have talked about Rama in battlefield, but then Sita's Agni Pravesha, I will come to that. Meanwhile, there is power failure here. So Sita's Agni Pravesha is a very very important thing. You see, usually what we feel, any modern reader, what do people say? Okay, Rama was very harsh, and then he asked Sita to get into the fire. So that is not the case. So when a normal reader, or rather an immature reader, will expect, okay, Rama, after the fall of Ravana, Rama has to run, and then he has to run to the Ashokavana, and then he has to hug Sita. So that is what we do expect. But then that cannot happen, because Rama is a king. So he should, whether that lady will be accepted by the people of Ayodhya back home. So that has to be examined by Rama. So Rama is happy that she has been rescued, but then he can't take her back. So what does he do? First of all, he coronates Vibhishana after the death of Ravana. The important task is coronation of Vibhishana. When after coronation of Vibhishana, he tells Hanuman, okay, now Vibhishana is the king. Rama does not go to the city. He does not enter the city, because as per the word given to his father, he is not supposed to enter any habitation. So he doesn't enter the city. He only sends Hanuman, you please go, take the permission of Vibhishana, you meet Sita. You meet Sita and convey to her that, okay, now Ravana is dead and you are safe, and Vibhishana is like your brother. And so convey that message and come back with her message. Okay, what she wants to do. So this is a very strange type of offer. So Hanuman goes like that, and then he also goes. He conveys the message, and she tells, no, what do I want? I want to see Rama. I want to meet Rama. That's all. Then he comes back. Then what does Rama do? Rama tells Vibhishana, okay, you please get Sita decorated in a proper manner. Divyangaragam Vaidehim Divyabharana Bhushitam. Divya Angaraga. So all these days she didn't even have proper, she has not taken care of her body. Let her get dressed properly, let her have proper wash. Divyangaraga. Angaraga means all types of sandals and paste, etc. Divya Abharana Bhushitam. Yaha Sitam Shirasmata. Probably all those days she didn't have, naturally she didn't have even Shirasmana. So Shirasnatam Upasthapayamachiram. Please get her after all that proper decoration and all that. And okay, all these Rakshasa women, they do decorate, they're also good in decoration and not only good in threatening, they're also good in decoration. So all those people, they make so much of decoration. And then that lady, she was brought on a palanquin, and she gets down. She immediately gets down, and then Rama is angry. No, why should she come in a palanquin? Let her walk. So she comes down, and then she walks down. When she walks down, then all the people are also watching. Then when I was first reading this thing, I was having a doubt. Why should he tell Vibhishana to get her all nicely dressed and all that? Because Rama's idea is to see what is the opinion of all these people. When such a beautiful lady is kept under the custody of, in the total whole absolute control of Ravana, will Ravana keep quiet? So that sort of doubt will linger in the minds of the people. So this particular lady, she is now okay. Rama is now, he has now defeated, killed Ravana, and then he is reclaiming this lady. But then all these years, not all these years, all these days, she was there. She was here, totally under the control. So what? Then everybody will have some doubt about her chastity. So that idea, he wants that idea to come in the minds of the immediate audience also, because if Rama goes and suddenly hugs Sita and gets her back, the immediate audience, they just do not have any doubt. Sugriva, Hanuman, and all these people, they will not have any doubt. Because in fact, Hanuman has seen how she was living, and then how she was not even taking food, and then she was not caring for Ravana. Hanuman has personally seen. And after seeing Sita only, he develops great regard for Rama. That is another point we see. Before seeing Sita, he thought, okay, Rama is a great man, no doubt. But then, after seeing Sita, he respected devotion for Rama and also for Sita. So that is how, when this lady is brought, then there are mixed feelings in the minds of Rama. Tam agatam upashrutya raksho gruha chiroshitam harsho dainyam cha roshascha trayam raghavam avishat, says Valmiki. Tam agatam upashrutya. When he hears that that lady has come, raksho gruha chiroshitam, who has stayed for a long time in that Rakshasa's house. Harsho dainyam cha roshascha. So he was happy. Dainyam, some sort of compassion, some miserly, sort of miserable feeling. Dainyam, roshascha, and also anger. Harsha because yes, Ravana has been killed, and then she is now safe, and then I have rescued her, got her back. Dainyam, because of her position. Oh, why she got into this position? Roshaha, anger. On whom? Anger. Then again, one commentator, Dharma-1, a very wonderful man, he points out that his anger is because Sita, initially, she was asked to be Lakshmana, he was asked to be there when Sita fell for that golden deer. And Lakshmana was there guarding. And after listening to the fake cry of this Maricha, she says, no, she shouts at Lakshmana, she also blames Lakshmana, no, you are having an evil eye on me and all that. And then she blames Lakshmana and sends him away. Then for that, he was angry. He is also quite justifiable. He was Rama's anger is also slightly justifiable. So these are the feelings, these are the mixed feelings. Then again, he tells, okay, now you are safe. You are in you are free to go anywhere, because Lakshmana is like your son, and then Bharata is like your son, the Shatrughna is like your son, even Vibhishana is also like your son. You can stay anywhere happily. Then as a Kshatriya, I have redeemed myself. Then she also is very strong. She may be a Pativrata, but she is also very strong. She is also from a royal clan. She is a virtuous woman, no doubt. It does not mean that she is totally spineless and so totally docile woman. So she also says, Kim mam asadrusham vakyam idrusham shrotra darunam ruksham shravayase vira prakruta prakrutamiva. She says, prakruta prakrutamiva. like a Prakruta Jana, like an ordinary man speaking to an ordinary woman. You are speaking to me. You are speaking in such a harsh way. What is this? Then, of course, Rama does not say anything. He just keeps his head down and he just does not say anything. Then Sita, she realizes that it is for her. It is for her to show her nature. So Rama doesn't say anything. Rama simply says, "You can go anywhere." Then she calls Lakshmana. Okay, you make this fire, and then I will enter fire. Lakshmana, he has no other option. He looks at Rama, and then he doesn't dare look at Rama because Rama's face it was so filled with mixed feelings, and he could not look at Rama. So Lakshmana obeys Sita and then prepares. And now the rest of the story we know. Then at that time only, after that only, then Rama says, I know right from the beginning. The Sita is a highly virtuous woman, but then I have no other option. I may take back Sita here, but then how do people in Ayodhya be convinced? So as a king, I have to ensure that the people in Ayodhya accept her. So that is what we see here. So as Bhavabhuti says later, Bhavabhuti, the common man cannot understand Ramayana so easily. For a common man, ordinary man who is talking about all types of liberal values and whatnot, they cannot understand because this is it requires some amount of maturity, getting into the shoes of Rama, see what was the situation of Rama. Rama also is in a very pitiable position. It is not as though Rama is in a happy position. So that is what we see there. And that is the reason why later poets like Bhavabhuti describes Rama saying, Vajradapi katorani, mruduni kusumadapi, lokottaranam chetansi, kohi vijnatum arhati. So they are harsher than a diamond and smoother than mruduni kusumadapi, smoother than, more tender or more smooth than, what is this, flowers. And Lokottaranam Chetansi, extraordinary people, the minds of the extraordinary people, they are so unfathomable. So that is what we find here in Valmiki Ramayana. So I have missed one or two episodes, but then something happened to my screen also. I hope the screen, yeah, now it has come. It is time is, now I think I'll stop here, Nitinji. I think it is 11:30 or so. If there is any discussion, because with wisdom, it is not my own wisdom. I will be inviting wisdom from people.
We haven't received any questions as of now, but I want to ask you one question myself. Yeah. Rama's Sugriva's, the Bali's encounter has been widely criticized as something immoral. But seeing from a very strategistic statecraft perspective, political perspective, I think Rama was merely, helping out his ally, who was Sugriva, because he had promised him of help. And so I think it was a very politically very correct way of doing things. And what are your comments on the whole?
Yeah, he has to follow Dharma, even when offering help to Sugriva, and even while killing Vali, he has to be very sure that he is doing the right thing. So that is the reason why he tests Sugriva. He asks so many details about the background and all that, and how on so many occasions Vali tried to kill him, get him killed. So all those things he examined, and how Vali forcibly took away the wife of Sugriva, and that was, as Rama says, it was something which was unpardonable. So all these things he saw, and the reason why he could not go in front of Vali is because of that charmed necklace. So what you say, garland or necklace. So because of that, as a human being, he has to abide by the human limitations. So he doesn't know that he is avatar, and he doesn't display his powers as avatar at any point of time. So that is the way we have to understand it. And he also wants to ensure that Sugriva not only becomes the king, but Sugriva also gets the support of all the Vanaras. So that is also an important thing. If he merely gets the help of Sugriva, he makes Sugriva the king, and he is only a notional king, and then all of the people rebel, it is not good. So he wants to ensure that Angada and his camp, they are also satisfied. So he tells Sugriva, okay, you may be the king, but then you make Angada the Yuvaraja. So that Angada was made Yuvaraja. So in fact, Angada also says, okay, I was made Yuvaraja not because of Sugriva. I was made Yuvaraja by Rama. So maybe after some time, when Sugriva and Rama they fall apart, or when Rama is away, Sugriva may try to kill me in so many ways, because as a king, he has all the resources with him to get me killed. So like that, Rama at every step he tries to see whether the step he is taking is right or wrong. So that is what we see here. So statecraft and dharma, they do merge. So that is what we have to see in Ramayana.
How does the commentators on Ramayana, how do they describe this Agni Pariksha episode? I mean, do they get into the kind of ethical discussion of Agni Pariksha? I mean, today, modern discourse, we tend to kind of distort the teachings of Ramayana. I mean, we try to impose our own present values onto the Ramayana, and hence make all kinds of lot of scholars make this nonsensical comments like how Rama was unfair to Sita, and how Rama was this and that. So, do we find any discussion on the ethical dharma aspect of Agni Pariksha episode in the commentators?
In fact, Valmiki himself has given all the arguments. Valmiki himself, he says, in fact, the body language and also the discussion there, the entire discussion shows how Rama wants to ensure that all the people know that Sita is virtuous. His greatest problem is that. And he knows that Sita is chaste, but then he can't straight away take her. So he has to ensure, and he can't tell her. He doesn't say that, okay, you get into fire and then show your chastity, etc. So he says, okay, as a king, I have done what is my duty. It is my duty to, redeem my honor, redeem the honor of my own family, and our Surya Vamsha, and I have restored that honor, and then now you are free to go anywhere. And of course, he also says, not anywhere. Lakshmana is like your son, Bharata is like your son, and with all these people, anywhere you can stay there. So that is what he says. And now it is the decision of Sita only. It is the decision of Sita to get into fire, because she knows. And also Hanuman knows. Another point, Hanuman also knows. When Hanuman was setting fire to the entire Lanka, and when his tail was burning, he was not getting any burning sensation. It was very cool. It was so cool for him. And then he realizes it is because of the Pativratyam of Sita, because of her chastity, that Agni, in fact, she prays to Agni at that point. So Hanuman says, Na Agni Ragnau Pravartate. Hanuman is aware, Na Agni Agnau Pravartate. Agni cannot burn, fire cannot burn fire. That in Valmiki himself, in Valmiki book itself, we find all the arguments. Commentators, not much on the ethical aspect. And even according to modern thing also, you see, a king, it is not as though it's like somebody like a present day prime minister or president having various types of affairs and whatnot. It is not like that. At that time, a king means the wife also is part of the kingdom. Wife also is part. Wife also is part of the entire establishment. She has to be righteous. She has to be virtuous. Only then the king's legitimacy is there. If wife is not virtuous, the king has no. He has to even send her away. If the son is not virtuous, the king has to send away the son. We find in Ramayana even one of the forefathers of Ramayana, Rama, one gentleman called Asamanjasa. He was sent away by his father because Asamanjasa was doing all types of rash things, and then he was torturing children. So that way, it was king's duty to punish anybody or to send away anybody, to discard anybody. Here, of course, there is nothing to punish Sita. He is actually punishing himself. In sending away Sita, of course, I have not taken into consideration Uttar Ramayana because all my teachers, they have been of the strong opinion. For example, my teacher Pullal Shyamchandrudu, again my guru Tattva Vidananda Saraswati, many people, they are of the opinion that Uttara Ramayana is something which is a later book. And there are many arguments for that. There are many arguments for that, why Valmiki could not have written that. And maybe at some time later, somebody wanted to show that Rama is such a great, judicious person. So he can even send away his wife. So that thing was there. So it is like that. And also the Shambhuka story. For all the Western people, Ramayana means Shambhuka. For Western people, Ramayana is Shambhuka. Ramayana is sending away misogynist. Then casteism. And they also use a particular term called, what is that? Aestheticization of power. That is one term which is used by them. What is that aestheticization of power? The structure is so beautifully put in the society, and caste structure is so beautifully like a sweet pill. A poison has been given to the society. A sugar-coated pill has been given to them. So that is what they say. But then, where is caste structure in Ramayana? There is absolutely nothing. And in fact, tomorrow, while discussing the some episodes which tell about the sociological significance, then I will explain that it is just not possible for Valmiki to write Uttara Ramayana. We will also see that. Because there is no caste structure which is mentioned, which is supported or justified in Valmiki.
We have one question. If Vali was wrong in taking Ruma as his wife, how is Sugriva justified in taking Tara as his wife? Angad
Yes.
tells his friends that Sugriva took his mother, who was like his mother, as his wife.
Yeah, this point was discussed in the commentaries. This point has been discussed. And in that Vanara tradition, you see, every society has its own tradition. In that Vanara tradition, it was permissible. When the elder brother is no longer dead, the younger brother, he was having that, he could marry the elder brother's wife if she also agreed. So this point was discussed. So it was natural for that particular community or for that particular society.
And I think we have just one more question. In the beginning, you mentioned about importance of keeping, the maintaining a temple in our hearts while comparing with our Ayodhya temple. So he just asks you to elaborate on it a bit.
Yeah, while in fact, when I was thinking about this subject, Rama Mandir, foundation for Rama Mandir, and then say keeping that as in that backdrop, we are now discussing this Valmiki Ramayana and Dharma and all that. Then Rama is imprinted in the minds of the people, not because of Ayodhya temple. Not because of Ayodhya temple. Much before we knew anything about Babur, much before anything we knew about the controversy, we were aware of Rama. And we were aware about, what is this? Dharma-Gnashya, Kృతజ్ఞశ్చ, Satyavakyo, Drudhavrataha. All these things, we were very much aware of all these things. And how all these things have been demonstrated. All these things were demonstrated. And similarly, not only at an intellectual level, even at the devotional level also, people like Tyagaraja, people like Tulasidas, and there is a sort of deification, of course, is quite common in our tradition. Deification, if Rama is made a god, okay, that is fine. If you want to admire him as a king, you admire him. If you want to look at him as an ideal human being, you look at him as an ideal human being. So that way, the temple for Rama has to be there very, very strongly in our minds. So that is the reason, if we read Ramayana and wherever we have doubt, we have to think on that. The problem with Ramayana is, it looks, the debate will be eternal if we don't have a slightly positive attitude. In fact, it has been said, there is a beautiful shloka, that is, Bhaktya Bhagavatam Nyayam, Bhaktya Yuktya cha Bharatam, Bhaktya Yuktya cha Vyutpatya, Ramayana Maharnavam, it is said. Bhaktya Bhagavatam name. Okay, if you want to understand Bhagavatam, you should have Bhakti. Bhakti should be the predominant thing there. Then Bhaktiya Yuktiya cha Bharatam. Bhakti and Yukti, because in Bharatam, there are so many debates, so many discussions about Dharma and whatnot. Not only that Ashrama Dharma, Varna Dharma, so many things are there. Raja Dharma, all these things. Then Moksha Dharma. Then here, Bhaktiya Yuktiya cha Vyutpatya. Another element called Vyutpatti. You should have some ability to think and ability to dwell on that. Alochanamritam, Kavyam is said to be an Alochanamritam. The more you dwell on it, the more you think about it, the more you get answers. So you have to have some positive attitude and then dwell on Ramayana. Why Rama did like this? So on first occasion, we may not know much. So why Rama leaves that Chitrakoot also? Because he thinks that he will become another power center. So we get answers if we just dwell on why Rama did it. Just pose a question why he did it. Then you will get answers.
Thank you, Aravinda ji.
Thank you.
So it was a very insightful session, and we have a lot of food for thought based on a lot of misconceptions were clarified by you. And with this, we come to a conclusion of today's session. And thank you again, Aravinda ji. And we will see you tomorrow, same time. Viewers, don't miss tomorrow's session. Aravinda ji will be speaking more about Ramayana and about Rama and its sociological significance, etc. Same
Poetic
time,
beauty mainly. Poetic beauty mainly.
yes, and poetic beauty. So tomorrow morning at 10:30, please log in. Thank you again, everyone. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha.
Thank you all. Thank you all. Namaskar.